Imagine a scenario where, after a destructive tornado or a raging wildfire, your community's ability to recover depends not just on the devastation, but on its position in an international debate. This week, the U.S. government announced that nearly $1.9 billion in federal disaster preparedness funds will now hinge on one crucial condition: states must pledge not to boycott Israel. In the next few minutes, we'll critically assess what this new policy entails, why it has generated significant national attention, and what ramifications it could have for disaster response, local governance, and the intersection of domestic needs and foreign policy. Let's begin with the basics. Disaster preparedness funding from the federal government is a lifeline, used for emergency training, equipment, and readiness in the face of hurricanes, wildfires, and other crises. This year, $1.9 billion in these vital funds now come with a new stipulation: recipient states and cities must formally assure the federal government that they will not boycott business with Israeli firms for political reasons. This requirement targets what's known as the BDS movement: boycott, divestment, and sanctions. The BDS campaign advocates economic pressure against Israel, primarily in response to its policies in the Palestinian territories. In recent years, support for BDS has increased following renewed conflict between Hamas and Israel, and the U.S. administration says this measure upholds long-standing opposition to discrimination and anti-Semitism. Most states already have laws in place that prohibit official boycotts of Israel. However, at least 16 states and several major cities do not. For those jurisdictions, the new condition presents a choice: either adopt specific anti-boycott policies or risk losing federal disaster-related funding. What does this mean in practice? Visualize a local emergency manager preparing for the next hurricane season, only to discover that critical funding, used for evacuation plans, communications gear, and emergency response training, now depends on signing a political commitment. For many local leaders, this raises pressing questions about the role of federal relief, state autonomy, and the boundaries between urgent domestic needs and foreign policy priorities. This move also fits a wider pattern. Recent FEMA allocations have been tied not only to natural disaster readiness but, in some cases, to support for terrorism prevention and even border enforcement initiatives. Such developments reflect a broader trend toward embedding policy stances within essential public funding, making this an issue of national debate and local consequence. Here's something to ponder. With federal disaster preparedness funding now intertwined with international policy positions, could we see similar conditions applied to other forms of aid? How might this precedent influence future debates over federal support for states and cities? We'll be watching these developments closely in the episodes ahead. As we've heard, the intersection of disaster preparedness and foreign policy is more than a headline. It can directly influence how and when communities receive urgent help. Do you believe federal disaster relief should ever depend on such political stances, or should it remain unconditional for the sake of public safety? Your perspective matters. Engage with us, share your insights and experiences in the comments below. For ongoing, in-depth analysis connecting public policy with real-world impacts, remember to subscribe and join us next time. Thank you for listening. Wherever the storms of politics or nature may hit, we're committed to helping you understand what's at stake.